Mr. Rutan, defense attorney.
Thank you, everybody. My name is John Rutan. I'm running for the most important position on the ballot. I'd first like to thank God for God none of us to be here. I'd like to thank my family. Without them, I wouldn't have life to help other people's lives. After 44 years of living, 20 years of legal experience, and 13 years of running my own law firm, I've been focused on criminal justice. And what I've realized is instead of fighting these people, I'm going to take their job and do the right thing. This job has a lot of responsibility. It's been neglected for years. And I'm the guy here to fix it because that's what I've been fighting for. From bail to what charges, to plea offers, to trials, to judicial release. I'll explain that all to you over this time. Thank you for your time. And thank you all very much for being here. And thank you for the host of this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Faber and Mr. Rutan. Mr. Rutan, we're going to begin with you. Many of your critics say you have no criminal prosecuting experience. How does that sit with you, and how will that affect your leadership in this role?
I don't mind the question because I understand from an outsider way you feel that way, but quite frankly, it's quite the opposite. And the best analogy I can give people is if you're a security system and you want to determine how secure it is, you hire a hacker. A hacker determines your weaknesses and cases. That's who I've been. For the past 13 years, I have more trial experience than everybody up here. And that trial experience is going to make me a good prosecutor because I'll just give you a simple example that's on everybody's mind. It's the me case. And as a county prosecutor, I would charge that guy fairly. And when you look at that trial, one of the things they did wrong to the public is they talked about the autopsy for 3 hours. That takes away the integrity before a jury. So what happens is, as a defense attorney, I learned how to do trials fairly in the right way. In fact, the whole point of being a defense attorney is to get in evidence that they're trying to hide from you. So what's going to happen when I get in there is there's a greater chance and likelihood of fair trials because everything I've been fighting for, I'm now going to do. And so it's the complete opposite. I'm the best trial attorney out here. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but the reason why I'm that good is not because of my stories. It's because all I care about is the truth and being fair. And so I will be a wonderful prosecutor because of that. And but more importantly, I know the law. And one of my favorite assets that I'm going to have for the prosecutor's office is counsel, not cover-up. And what happens a lot of times is when the police violate people's constitutional rights, the prosecutors cover it up. They argue. They don't ridicule them, which is what I'll do. And I'll do it with compassion and responsibility. But I know how to do things because that's what I've been doing.
Mr. Rutan, thank you so much.
Undercover boss.
Ms. Faber. Same question. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, where this all happens when you elect an inactive prosecutor. You got to be in the courtroom to know what's going on. The reason why you have a backlog of 251 murder cases is not because the prosecutors all of a sudden became inadequate. It's because of leadership. Leadership matters, and you better know how to do the trial. And I'll tell you this, if you ask any trial attorney, and they'll tell you the truth, the toughest job is being a defense attorney. All a prosecutor does is put on evidence. Who, what, where, when, why. A defense attorney has to be like, what about this, what about this, what about that, you forgot to do this, you forgot to do that. And that's why I'm going to add a value to the profession. Because what's going to happen is, instead of these defense attorneys being able to, I'm going to take that out in their case in chief. And a perfect example, and I hate to just allude to the meat case, but look at the witness that they called that a week into the trial. The prosecutor should never call that witness. The witness was applied.
Mr. Rutan, I just want to stop you because we are going to have plenty of time to talk about the meat trial. That's on my agenda, but I want to get a couple things out of the way first.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Karen. I actually love this question because this is the difference between candidates. There's about 10 reasons I'll give you 5. And these are ones I'm going to have an immediate impact on. These aren't things that are going to take 3 or 4 years. Number 1, overcharging. The first job of a prosecutor is to determine what charges come forward. It's not law school. You don't charge based on hate, and you don't charge to negotiate fees. Number 2, bail. The purpose of bail is to secure their appearance and protect the public. You need reasonable bail so the defendants can hire the lawyers of their choice. When they don't hire the lawyer of their choice, it delays the system, and that's how you get a backlog. Number 3, plea offers. Plea offers is the most important role. What's the right offer for what crime? And ladies and gentlemen, this requires good judgment. And in order to, and you need to know the difference between protecting a person and protecting a person from the public. You need to know the difference between punishing and crushing. And you don't learn this in law school, you don't learn this being a prosecutor, and you don't learn on committees. You learn it by working with people like me. Number 4, you better be a good trial attorney. Why? Because if you're a good trial attorney, the guilty people don't get away. Why? Because high tides raise all boats. The trial has to be better. That's why it's important. And number 5, and there's a lot more, but these are just my 5. After people get sent to prison, what happens in my career is I get a lot of people that do good and they prove, hey, I've changed, I'm doing great, I'm amenable to treatment. It's called judicial release to get people out early. Well, what the prosecutor's office does is they always say no. I'm going to employ thinkers, not computer programs. So if you do good and you prove that you've rehabilitated, you're going to have an opportunity to get out early with the man.
Mr. Rutan, thank you. Mr. Pearson? What is the details and wants to jump in?
Well, justice, I think you got to look at 2 things. Number 1, does it send a message to the public? And the name when I first heard that is, not enough time, right? You lost 2 legs. So from that respect, I don't see justice now, where my opinion could change, and I respect Mr. Pearson for being thoughtful in his answer, is how does the victim feel about it, right? Because if the victim doesn't want time, maybe that's how they come to a compromise. So my first impression is no, he lost 2 legs. My second impression is what the victim can say about it. And sometimes victims feel differently about it. Maybe the victim was too far on the road. But the problem is when alcohol is a contributing factor, you gotta get maxed on stuff like that. And the reason why is because it sends a message to the public, right? Take an Uber. So those are my feelings.
Ms. Faber, go ahead, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you.
And just to bring something up, that's why the judicial release is important. Because let's just say justice wouldn't be.
Sir, speaking to the microphone.
And I think that's why judicial release is important, because a situation like that, you gotta give them max. But maybe he can get out early. Let's see what type of alcohol treatment he's received in prison. Let's see if he's not picked up any tickets. Let's see how remorseful he is. So what people have to understand is just because you go to prison doesn't mean you do all the time. The purpose of prison is to punish, but it's also to rehabilitate. So if you can prove that, then maybe I can have an effect. Thank you.
Prosecutor Gary Tayyak campaigned on the handling of police shootings within his office. He said his office will prosecute those cases. We've had several high-profile cases that have been farmed out to special prosecutors. I just want you all to chime in on and give me your thoughts on that action, and will that be the practice under your leadership?
With me, absolutely not. I mean, that's why you elect me to handle this stuff. So no. Number 1, police shootings, it all goes to the grand jury. It's not a decision for any one person to make. That's the most important thing. And number 2, you definitely want to hand on the trial because you would have different results. And the reason why is because the prosecutor, like I was saying in my first response, to know what charges. With all due respect, the main case was overcharged and it was never murder. It was manslaughter of reckless. And what happens when you start off at murder, you take away integrity from the jury. Because it's just not the guy's on duty, he's responding to issues, did he overreact? And so, yes, I will handle it because I'm going to handle it fairly and justly. So, yes, I'll be the guy to handle that. I'm not harming anything. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the only candidate up here that has put an officer on the stand and called him a liar. I'm the only candidate up here that sued an officer for excessive force. And I'm the only candidate up here that sued an officer for wrongful death. So if you want to know who's going to be on your side, very simple. That's my history.
The Jason Meade trial, which you keep referring to, so I want to get to you first. You're getting ahead of me. The Jason Meade murder trial we saw last week, a hung jury, the judge declared a mistrial. Mr. Rutan, what should happen next?
Very simple. The jury might have verdict should be disclosed to the public, and in my opinion, it's very simple. Based upon the verdict, is how you make a decision as a county prosecutor. For example, if it's 10-2, whatever that 10-2 is what you do, right? If 10 people say not guilty, you don't retry it. If 10 people say guilty, you retry it. Simple as that. Has anybody ever heard the term, you can indict a ham sandwich? but you can't indict a cop that shoots somebody 40 times. Like Ms. Harris pointed out, it's because of lack of motivation. It's your responsibility to present the evidence. That's a terrible job, honestly. Getting the conviction is a lot different than getting a charge, ladies and gentlemen. A lot easier, and you lead up to people making decisions. So I definitely think there's something going on there. But another thing, I hear a lot from Mr. Pierce about conflict. That sounds like control to me. Because the only conflict I have is if my mom or dad are charged. You take that out of the equation, there's no conflict with me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Rutan, you've never been in front of a grand jury, so how would you know?
I do know, and thank you for that, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Grand juries aren't secret. They're hidden from us, but lawyers, because I've done it, we can file a motion to disclose the information, so it would be nice to disclose it, actually.
Ms. Baker, did you want to?
So it's not secret. After the fact, she's 100% correct. And if
Thank you, Mr. Rutan. Ms. Baker, did you want to chime in?
I'm the only one that has a chain of protection. I'm the only one that said, okay, which community are we part of? Yeah, I think everybody. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the only one here that's protecting people from overcharging, from high bails, from terrible deals, and from unfair trials. There's not a better candidate up here to help anybody up here, because I'm the one that's been fighting for justice. The reason why I'm here today isn't because I miss being a defense attorney. It's because instead of helping a few, I'm going to help the many. And this position gives me the power to do the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, this job is easy. It's just hard to get the right person until you met me. Very simple.
All right, Mr. Rutan. There is a great concern about the backlog of murder cases and cases in the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office. I have a number of questions about those. We have numbers from 200, 251, and beyond that. How will you all get a handle of this? What does this mean to people who are waiting for justice for their families?
Very simple. First thing I'm going to do is pick up every file because I'm a trial attorney. I'm going to analyze every single file. And I'm gonna interview and meet with every prosecutor in the office and say, who has a skill set to handle murder cases? Okay, guys, we have 30 qualified lawyers, we have 251 files. Everybody takes 5 or 10, including myself. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make it a point to analyze it. And then more importantly, guess what? A lot of this is overcharging. I have a murder case now that I took. I don't represent child molesters and murderers. I represent people charged with murder, but my track record will show you none of them have been guilty of murder. So I know through experience they overcharge. So I would take a look at the cases and see where I could give reasonable offers, because manslaughter happens a lot. And then the cases that are legit murder, I'll handle those if I need to be. But I'd make sure competent counsel handled all of them, and I'd make sure I had my hand in every case to make sure they had the benefit of understanding a defense attorney's perspective, so what just happened doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Mr. Rutan.
Just in case you know that's my last name. And I'll tell you why. Because the law is the law. All we need are thinkers. And the bail is, as Ms. Harris is alluding to protect the public and secure your parents. And that's it. So the reason why the prosecutors are going to love a guy like me in there is because guess what they get to do? They get to think today. So I'm going to tell the prosecutors, hey, don't just go in there and say high bail and no bail. Go in there and look at the file. Understand the facts of the case. Understand the strength of the case. Try to get an idea of the character. Try to speak to the defense attorney. So it's not bail reform. It's just getting a leader in there to follow the law. The law. Because the law is there. The reform is already there. Thank you.
This is the final question before Mr. Rutan.
I agree with Mr. Pearson, and I think what people need to know is prosecutors go to court every day, they need to go to work. But I think where I'm being a little bit different is I understand employees need to be happy and they gotta love their job. So, and I got a child, so I'd be okay if you just went through 2 or 3 week trial and you asked me if I could work home for a day, as long as you're doing the work. So I think home is more like a recess than it is a policy. So I think it's good for certain aspects to give your lawyers a break, or it's your kid's birthday today, take it off. Remember, these employees are, without them, I wouldn't have a job. They're important to me. And I believe love your neighbor like you love yourself. Treat them the way I want to be treated. So I'll be fair to the prosecutors. I'll do whatever they feel within reason, and I think that's also a good way to determine what type of character are the people you have. But like Mr. Peterson alludes to, the job requires you to be in court. So it's not really an issue in Franklin County, actually.
Ms. Faber.
Yeah, the only
Thank you.
Defense Attorney John Rutan.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know you both be a defense attorney, from an attorney for the people, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a Republican candidate. I'm a candidate for everybody. I can help everyone. I can help the victims. How can I help the victims? I can help these victims by ensuring they get justice. I can help the victims by ensuring they get quick justice. And I can also help them by listening, because that's your job as a prosecutor, to understand what the victims want. I can help the defendants by making sure they get fair trials and compassionate and measurable justice. I can help out the prosecutors by giving them guidance and guidelines. Under my leadership, prosecutors are going to be lawyers again. They aren't going to be kick-the-can-downers. They're going to have guidelines to get things finished. The public's going to love me because crime is actually going to go down. It is a leadership issue. And the way you bring crime down is you lock up the dangerous people and you punish those people. You don't crush them, because when you crush people, you create a new generation of criminals. I can help the police. Why? Because I'm mindful the police aren't lawyers. I'm there to counsel. I'm not there to cover up. I'm also going to help the police because I'm going to listen to them. If we would have had a leader in there that listened to the police, you wouldn't have 1,100 cars stolen by 400 repeat offenders. You have repeat offenders because the prosecutor doesn't listen to the police and because they don't listen to the victims. I am the only candidate here that's going to help everybody. God bless you all. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rutan. And ladies and gentlemen, our candidates for Franklin County Prosecutor. Number